All right, so we are back with our fourth conversation for knowing your worth. And when we talk about that, it's related to knowing your worth, like your value as a human being, and also your financial worth. And that's why I'm here with Jodi Banks, who is a financial consultant. And I'm Julie Radico. I'm a psychologist, a coach, author, and a speaker. And we are going to talk today about how you want to be remembered. And so, Jodi, start us off. Like when you think about this and working with your clients and just this idea of like how do they want to be remembered? Like what are the things that come to mind for you?
Great question. Thanks, Julie. Great to be here with you again, as always. How do they want to be remembered? I think sometimes, especially women, and again, men too, but we are kind of focusing on women. We always touch on that in our seminars together. They're so hard on themselves. And whether they've made mistakes or whether they've made grand slams in their life, the noise eventually will always calm down, right? It'll sort of always go away, just like our titles. Maybe we've built up our life for a certain promotion, and that's great. And we have all these great achievements that we're so proud about, but eventually the titles go away too, right? But what remains is, how do people feel when they're around you? I know that's such a cliche statement, but it's so relevant here. How do you make them feel? What is your character? How did you act with integrity throughout your life and make a difference to really impact others? Because the spotlight is going to come and go, and that's a fleeting thing. But what will stay with you forever is someday we'll all close our eyes for our last time. And it'll be that one thing that maybe your best friend, a relative, your children will say about you that they remember about you the most. And when I talk with my clients, it's not just about the money per se. It doesn't almost really have anything to do with that, but it's the tool. It's any tool. It's the psychological tool, the mental tool, or the emotional tool in our life. And how did we use that to make others feel better about themselves around us, right? We can either push others up or push them down. And I know in your practice, you must see that all the time also. So I'll raise the question back over to you. What do you do? Legacy might not be the top of a focus for you in some of your conversations or your speeches that you do, but I think some of the other things very much have a big play in them, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, yeah. You touched on so many fantastic points related to like what do we want to leave as our legacy? What do we want people to think about when they think about us, in past terms? I One of the things that comes to mind, and I think it's sort of relevant when we're talking about like finances and worth and like our internal value is there's some saying out there of, do you want to be the richest person in the graveyard? Like, do you want to be, is your goal to take the most money with you to the grave, or is it to have people feel like that they were valued and you valued them and they were worth spending time with and you were worth spending time like those, what do you want to guide you as you make decisions about how to be healthy in your whole life? And I hear a lot from people when they talk about, the titles and the things that they feel like they should be doing. I hear a lot of shoulds. And the saying out there, y'all, and it's not one that I came up with, but I love it. If you hear me talk about any of the mindset, unhelpful thought kinds of things, you'll hear me say this. The saying is, don't should all over yourself, because we do that, right? We tend to say, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I should have known that, or I shouldn't have said that. And then we usually just like stop there. Our brains tend to say, oh, okay, well, now I feel like guilt and shame, and I just am gonna sit and wallow in that. And it might stop us from doing things that do help us act in ways that we want to be remembered. Maybe we're upset, maybe we're down, maybe we're not engaging with others in a way that feels fulfilling because we're just all up in our heads going, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have known better. So notice. And one of the things I help people do is notice when they're saying stuff to themselves like that. And I'm mindful that you probably hear things like that, Jodi, of like, oh, I should have already been saving. I should have made better decisions, and this, how it might stop people from getting to where they want to be and how they want to live their lives and how they want to be remembered.
Yes, I love that. And you're so right. It does. People beat themselves up, right? Especially the women. I would definitely say women are a little harder on themselves than the men are that I see. And I see both clients, both as married couples and as individuals. And the women are like, oh, I failed. And, I didn't save enough for my kids' college education, or I didn't put enough in my retirement, or, oh, I started too late. I've made so many mistakes. Well, what about what you did right? What about the powerful things you did? Maybe you didn't put in your 401k because you wanted your kids to have, that nice, pair of shoes when they started school, kind of keeping up with their friends, or they wanted them to feel really good about themselves. And you wanted to take them on a special trip because maybe they made honor roll and you wanted to go above and beyond and make a big deal out of something. There's so many hundreds, if not thousands of things in our life like that, where maybe you didn't do one thing, but I guarantee you more than likely did something else that
Mm,
really made a difference. And you might not be honing in on that. You might not even remember that you did that. But if you stop and you just pause and you take a breath and you literally think about what you're thinking about, you won't be so hard on yourself. And you'll say, hey, I did make failures, but I also made some pretty good decisions too. And the more times that we recognize that, I think that kind of rounds out and balances us so much more. And also, again, sets examples, right, to our families, our friends, whomever. Because, my partner always says, you're on stage 24 hours a day. My business partner slash my husband, he says, you're always on stage 24 hours a day. People are always watching what we're doing. They're
mm,
watching what we're thinking, what we're saying, how we're acting. So, on this whole legacy thing, I think it's all a part of it. So to
yes.
be remembered by those things, that's what we should really be focusing on.
Mm. So the shoulds can be motivating. So when you're talking about like being on stage and thinking about like, you know, what should I do? At a low level, if you say, well, you know what, I made that mistake and I wish I should have done something different. If that then can bridge to something productive. Okay, well, this is what I'm going to do in the future, and this is how I'm going to plan, and this like that can be really helpful. Oftentimes, it's important for us to catch those shoulds when we are just saying like, "Oh, I should have done that, or I should have known that, and then we just stop. Bridging and changing those thoughts to being something more productive, more helpful, more problem solving, more, well, how do I want to be viewed? How do I, if I'm on stage and other people are being influenced by my behaviors, like how do I want them to feel? And more from, and what I would encourage people to ultimately, the goal would be to take your internal language and turn it into what I want to do. Well, I want to act this way. I want people to feel this way. I want to achieve these goals. And that leads me to Jodi, one of my favorite questions, and I ask this of myself all the time, is what would future you thank you for? What's something that you could do today that future you would thank you for? Which I think perfectly aligns with like, how do you want to be remembered, right? Like, how do you want to remember yourself? How do you want to remember what you've done for yourself and for others? But also, how will other people remember you by the things that you could start working on little bits today? If you're like shooting all over yourself and you're like, oh, I should have done that. Okay, well, start today. What's the first step? You know, there are many times where I hear people go, yeah, I need to do that thing. I'm supposed to do that thing, but I procrastinate. I put it off. I don't want to do it. Feel like I can't do it. All these like pressures they're putting on themselves. And so ask yourself, what's one thing you could do today that future you would thank you for? And see if you can't start there.
Oh, that's great. And to tag on to that, there's givers and then there's takers, and there's a place for both, I believe. But I think when you really hear it be said like that, you want to give. How much can you serve? How much can you put out there? And you want to leave the place, the world better than the way you found it, right? So whether that's your children or families, things we talked about earlier, you always want to make it a little bit better. And at the end of our days, when we do close our eyes for that last last time, reflecting back and saying, you know what, I did make some great decisions. I wasn't perfect. I was far from perfect, but I accomplished a pretty good game of life, right? I checked some boxes. I made a difference. I wasn't always a taker. I gave to, I supported others, whether it's with money or our time or our love. There's so many different ways to do it. And as we sort of kind of wrap up in this last minute, I think that that's really the most important thing, because we all have a story to tell. And at the end of time, the end of our time, what do you want your story to be? And how
Mm,
would you want those that you love and care about and those that you're leaving behind, how do you want them to tell your story in your absence?
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all you listeners out there, I hope this was important to you. Legacy, it's important. We all have one. It's a piece of our life. It's a piece of our past, our present, and our future. Please feel free, message us. We'd love to hear your thoughts about this. I hope it helped you, kind of got the wheels turning a little bit. And how do you want your legacy to be left behind, and how do you want to be remembered? I'm sure that you're going to do all the things that make the best sense for you. Put yourself first. It's okay. And we know that at the end, it's going to all work out like it always does. So thanks for listening, and take care, everybody.